I don't know if you guys have seen the study. Women report having more orgasms with men who have broader shoulders. When I first moved to Vegas back in August of 2011, one of the things that I noticed is before I, knew everyone, it was hard for me to get into the VIP. It was hard for me to get into certain places. So I just decided one day to just start wearing three-piece suits every single night I went out in Las Vegas. In the winter, it's great. In the summer, not so good. But I started doing that every time. And I went to a tailor. I found a tailor and they tailored one of my suits perfectly. And then I took all my other suits there. And every day I would go out in Vegas in a suit. And I'm telling you, every security guard just let me walk by like it wasn't shit. I was on stage at every club. And I did this for years. That's the reason why I'm so hooked up here and why I host all these events here, is because I was basically crashing tables for like 3 or 4 years because of the way I dressed. There was just so many things that were happening. And it was just like so much good attention. There's a couple things you talk about wearing a suit. You also talk about wearing a suit, but not necessarily with a tie or not necessarily with a shirt. And the other thing I want to go over is like the way, especially if you're a type of individual who maybe you have rounded off shoulders and maybe you have kind of a barrel chest, the suit can make your shoulders look wider and your waist look smaller, giving you like more of a V taper. And so that's really important. Can you go over the concept of wearing a suit?
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I was I had this girlfriend back in the day, and I didn't wear suits. I never really had to back in the day. And one time she was like, "Oh, I love guys in suits," and it almost made me mad. It made me jealous. I'm like, "Well, I don't wear a suit, so like you're not obviously not even talking about me, right?" But she just looked at guys, whether they were coming out of their banking job or office jobs, and they just looked sharp. There's something about a suit that just makes you look sharp. And I see some guys here wearing suits in their profile photos, and it just looks good. It looks like you know how to take care of yourself. You look like you have a good job, that you know how to do a tie. And honestly, a lot of these younger men, they don't know how to do that. And a lot of my suit videos do well because guys have no idea how to wear a suit. I would say nowadays, if you're a Gen Z, if you're slightly younger than I am anyway, then I think it's okay for you to wear a suit without a tie, for you to wear a suit even with a tank top in the summer. It's just like it doesn't have that stuffy feeling to it. So don't think of a suit as like, oh, this stuffy thing that's like all the way up my neck and it's I don't like it, it's for older guys. It's not. There's ways to make it more modern. If you add boots, if you add sneakers, if you change the top and the bottom, I think those are really good ways to make it more modern and make it more interesting and even edgy sometimes if you want. I've seen suits with all different types of details that just look very different from different designers. So I think a lot of guys should learn how to wear a suit and should learn how to customize it to their own personal style. The broad shoulders thing is such a big thing too, dude. Yeah, for sure. If you get a suit tailored, it changes the entire vibe, right? Getting your clothes tailored in general is something that guys should be looking into, because baggy pants that are too long, that are covering your shoes, your sneakers, it just looks sloppy. You can be in a Tom Ford suit. If it's not fit to your body, it's going to look like you just got it at H&M, and that's just the truth. So I would prefer you get a suit at H&M and get it tailored than wear a Tom Ford suit that's not tailored and it's just like drowning you in it. The fit is so important when it comes to suit.
Once you get one tailored, you can go back, show their tailor the jacket, and you don't have to pay for an expensive tailor. I mean, most of them aren't expensive anyway, and you can get this done. This is far more important. If you live in Vegas, one of the things you'll notice is the nicer suit you wear, the more people want to spill their cranberry juice on your suit, right? So I prefer Kenneth Cole and H&M and Zara because my jackets get destroyed anyway. So that's one of the reasons why I do that. Trying to go through crowds in the city. But I always get complimented on these suits that I have that are less than $300. I constantly got complimented, and it's because of the way that it makes the fit works. Now, for you guys, there's studies that show that women, they try to accentuate their hip to waist ratio. And there's for again, that 37 culture study I referred to before, it's about a 0.72 hip to waist ratio that men prefer with women. And there's also studies that show in evolutionary biology that as women have a narrower hip to waist ratio, that they're actually more fertile. And so there's an evolutionary reason why we do that. The contrapositive of that is women prefer a 1.65 to 1 ratio of shoulders to waist. So how can we do that? We can get our delts bigger, or we can lose some fat around the waist, and that ratio becomes bigger. I don't know if you guys have seen the study. Women report having more orgasms with men who have broader shoulders. And the other thing that shows broader shoulders, if you get like a thick leather jacket, the leather actually a lot of times will make your torso, like a bowler or a bomber jacket, it'll make your torso look like a marshmallow. Even if you're in good shape, it'll make you look rounder. When you have a suit, it squares off the shoulder and actually gives you a couple of inches off to the side, which makes your whole body look like a V. And then there's another V with the lapels there. And these are things that like women tend to find more attractive, and the science shows it.
The V shape is super attractive, right, to women. So I have a clothing brand called ATOS, and we literally, the first t-shirt that we ever made was made to accentuate that V shape in men. The seam on the shirt is literally comes in and forward so that it shows, you can see the seam just going forward. It kind of looks like your obliques are going in, and you know, you have that V shape.
I need to check that out because the problem is for me, because I have big arms, dude, they give me these shirts that are like in dresses. You know what I'm saying? They're like fat around my waist. And I'm like, because the typical,
we'll send you some.
For sure. I would love that, man. Because the typical dude, for those of you who don't know, the typical man in the US is 60 pounds overweight. That's where we're getting to, like massive obesity. Women on average are 168 pounds. That's what these average, like I believe it's between ages 25 to 35. Obesity is an epidemic. So if you can actually show a small waist, especially for you guys who are a little bit older, to me, for a woman, think about it, if you're a woman and you saw a guy who was in his 40s and he was in shape when the rest of the country is obese, how incredibly attractive and how much more would that make you stand out? So I definitely think that's a huge thing. And the other thing is, Rollo Tomasi, he says this is a really great way to say it. What men think is that women decide whether or not they're going to sleep with a man in the first 30 seconds. That's not true. Women decide in the first 30 seconds if she's not going to sleep with him. And one of the things that'll disqualify you is your look. When you wear a suit, a nice suit, that 30 seconds, it elongates. It's like you get more protection in the pocket. Like when you play quarterback, you have more time in the pocket because you're not being disqualified. Because I've never heard of a woman disqualifying a man because he looks good in a suit. Not in my whole life have I ever heard one. I've heard women disqualify men for having too many tattoos on the face, being overweight, taking too many steroids. I know a girl who disqualifies men who are over 6'5" because he thinks that they're arrogant. Women will disqualify you for anything. They will never disqualify a man for wearing a suit properly, not one time ever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you look at prominent figures that wear suits, I think of Conor McGregor, for example, back in his heydays, when he was wearing those suits when he came out, I was like, damn, he looks so sharp. He looks so good and powerful, and powerful. And I love the fact that athletes now wear suits to game days, and they look super presentable, and they look really sick and fashion forward if they want to with the suits. But I think it just shows that you know how to take care of yourself. And one thing too is being in shape. It just gives you so many advantages over other guys, right? So you're saying that guys are usually 60 pounds heavier than they should be.
Yeah, I believe it's a certain cohort of men. It's not all men, obviously.
It's going to go up after GTA 6 comes out.
Yeah, when GTA 6 comes out, bro, strip clubs are going to be empty. I remember when GTA 5 came out, and my friends were like, let's go out tonight. I'm like, why? I'm sure there's a nightclub somewhere here in Los Santos. And we found the Vanilla Unicorn and stayed in that bitch all night. It was so crazy, bro. If you guys know, put a 1 in the chat if you have been on, like, done a heist with your friends on GTA 5. Come on, guys. I'm telling the truth. You listen to Fresh and Fit, like kind of talking bad about, guys sitting around playing video games. What is all of their content, like all of their graphics based on? It's GTA Vice City. So like it is like that, man. It's going to be crazy when that stuff comes out. Going back to what you were saying before, one of the things I actually like that you discussed was the effects of stress on a person. You talked about breathing, you talked about all kinds of stuff like this. You find that a lot of diseases are caused by stress, and you had some advice about dealing with stress.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a pretty chill guy. Like I don't really get stressed, overwhelmed. I'm very focused. So I'm lucky in that way. But I when I do get stressed, when it happens, I notice a difference immediately in the way that I look, in the way that I feel, my energy levels. There was one point in my life that I was very stressed, and I started losing some hair, and I was like, what's going on here? Like, am I actually balding, or am I just stressed out? And it turns out that I was just stressed out. And so I started doing some research on it, and you can literally just start losing all your hair, getting pimples, getting dark circles under your eyes just from being stressed out. Right. And it's something that I talk about because men are typically very stressed out, especially in their late 20s, when they're like, we have to figure out what my career is, I have to figure out my dating, what's going on here. You get stressed out as a provider. That's something that you think about a lot. And it shows, it really shows. You don't get enough sleep. you get dark circles, your eyes just don't look as good, your hair falls out. So I think it's something that you should look into if you're stressed out. I do believe in therapy personally. I think it's something that is good for you to talk to someone, even if it's just sharing something with a friend and having a little therapy session with a friend. It doesn't have to be anything in an actual therapist in a therapy clinic. I just letting it out, talking to people, I think is something that's super important.
Alex, I do actually want to ask you about therapy because it's something I'm interested in. But one of the issues that I've had, and I've just talked to other guys about this, is that often therapists don't understand a man's burden of performance. You have a burden of performance. You have to produce for your sponsors. Do you have an issue with that, where it's like a therapist is telling you to be more vulnerable, and it's like, no, they'll just take everything I have and steal my girlfriend. I can't be more vulnerable. Like, do you have an issue with that, where your therapist kind of understands your burden of performance?
I think it's something that you have to set forth right away. They have to understand who you are and what you're all about immediately. Otherwise, it's just, if they don't have the full picture, they're just not going to be able to give you great advice. So it's really important to make sure that you're talking to someone who understands who you are, what you do, and what you're going through, and why you're stressed out. Full picture. But then also, I think it's also really important to hone in on the specific issue, right? So if you're talking about a relationship and it doesn't have much to do with business, then maybe that's all you talk about, and you don't really bring up the business stuff, and they'll be able to give you good advice on that.